Yo, what is good, Dub Nation? Listen. I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I just watched happen on ESPN First Take is the single most important moment of the entire Steve Kerr era of Golden State Warriors basketball. Mike Dunlevy Jr., the most under-the-radar general manager in the entire NBA, just walked onto national television and changed the future of this franchise. I literally had to rewind the segment 5 times because my brain couldn't process what I was hearing. Stephen A. Smith was screaming. Molly Karam was speechless. Shams Charania was tweeting in real time. And Stephen Curry, somewhere in his off-season facility in the Bay Area, has to be doing backflips right now because the Warriors front office finally gave him the running mate that he has been begging for since Kevin Durant left in 2019. Drop everything. Pause the music. Tell the kids to be quiet, because what Mike Dunleavy Jr. just did on live national television is going to give Steph Curry one more legitimate championship run, and it might just give him a 5th ring. Lock in, Dub Nation, because I'm about to break down every single second of this absolutely unbelievable interview. Hey, what's up everyone? Real quick before we get into everything, that like button is literally what determines if this reaches hundreds or thousands of fans. Takes 1 second, but makes a huge impact on the channel's growth. Just smash that like button right now. It's the easiest thing you can do, but honestly the biggest way to support this content. Every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. So here's the context heading into this morning's segment. The Warriors 2025-26 season was an absolute disaster after a promising start. Stephen Curry went down with that runner's knee injury back on January 30th, and the team completely fell apart. Jimmy Butler tore his ACL in January and won't be back until late 2026 at the earliest. The Warriors had to make moves at the trade deadline. They shipped out Jonathan Kuminga, brought in Kristaps Porzingis, but Porzingis is now an unrestricted free agent heading into this summer. The roster is in chaos. Brandon Podziemski is the only young player they trust, but his rookie extension situation is becoming the next Kuminga drama. Steve Kerr just signed a 2-year extension, which everybody saw as a commitment. Draymond Green is still negotiating his next deal, and the entire basketball world has been wondering, what is Mike Dunleavy actually going to do this offseason? The team has been linked to every star: Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard, even LeBron James and Giannis. Stephen A. Smith has been on First Take every single week trashing the Warriors. He literally said on Tuesday's show, and I quote, "If Mike Dunleavy doesn't pull off something historic this offseason, Stephen Curry is going to force his way out of Golden State." That's the truth, and it's about time the Warriors woke up and realized that. That was the energy heading into this interview. So Mike Dunleavy Jr. walks onto the set of First Take. Now, if you know anything about Dunleavy, you know he is not a media guy. He doesn't do TV, he stays in the shadows. He lets his moves speak for themselves. So the moment I saw him on the set this morning, I knew something huge was about to drop. The man does not do First Take just to chit-chat. Molly Karam does the introductions, asks the usual softball questions about the state of the roster, about Curry's recovery, about Jimmy Butler's ACL timeline. Dunleavy answers everything calmly, measured, no big news, until Stephen A. Smith pounces. Stephen A. leans across the desk, points his finger directly at Dunleavy, and he goes, "Mike, with all due respect, Stephen Curry is 38 years old. Jimmy Butler is recovering from ACL surgery and won't be himself until 2027. You have a 2-year window maybe before this entire dynasty is officially over." The Warriors have been linked to every star in the league this offseason. Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, even LeBron James. But you haven't done anything. So I'm going to ask you the question every Warriors fan in the world wants answered. What is your plan, or are you going to let Stephen Curry retire without one more legitimate shot at a 5th ring? The studio went dead silent, and Mike Dunleavy Jr., for the first time in the segment, smiled. He actually smiled, because he knew this question was coming, and he had the answer prepared. Stephen A., I'm glad you asked. Because I have an announcement to make this morning, live on ESPN First Take, that I believe is going to change the entire conversation around the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors have agreed in principle to a trade with the Houston Rockets. We are acquiring center Alperen Sengun. The deal is done. Sengun is going to be a member of the Golden State Warriors for the next 4 years minimum. The studio absolutely exploded Stephen A. Smith literally fell out of his chair. Molly Karam was speechless for like 6 full seconds. Brian Windhorst on the analyst desk was nodding his head with the biggest smile, and I, sitting at home in my Steph Curry jersey, was screaming so loud my neighbors must have thought something was on fire. Dub Nation, we got him, Mike Dunlevy Jr. The quiet assassin, the man nobody saw coming, just delivered the trade of the century. A 23-year-old two-time NBA All-Star, the basketball equivalent of Nikola Jokic, is now lined up next to Stephen Curry. Are you kidding me? My hands are still shaking, writing this. Stephen A. Smith got his voice back, and he immediately started yelling, Mike! 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 Tell me, tell the world, what did the Warriors give up for this? Because I refuse to believe Rafael Stone in Houston would let Sengun go without destroying the Warriors' future. What was the package? And Mike Dunleavy Jr., calm as ever, just said, Stephen A., I think you might be surprised by how reasonable the package was. The Warriors are sending Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga's salary slot. Wait, I'm sorry. Kuminga was already traded. Let me correct that. We're sending Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, our 2026 first-round pick at number 11, an unprotected 2030 first-round pick, and a 2032 first-round pick swap to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Alperen Sengun. The studio went bananas. Brian Windhorst started screaming about how this was the most aggressive Warriors trade since they got Kevin Durant. Molly Karam was laughing in disbelief, and Stephen A. Smith, after his initial shock, started smiling because he knew Mike Dunleavy Jr. just went all in. The Warriors just emptied the whole clip to bring in a 23-year-old all-star to play next to Stephen Curry. This is the kind of move that wins championships. This is the kind of move that defines an era. Mike Dunleavy Jr. wasn't done. He kept talking. He said, Look, Stephen A., I've heard the criticism. I've read the articles. I've seen the takes about how I haven't been aggressive enough. And honestly, that criticism has weighed on me because Stephen Curry is the greatest player in the history of this organization. Stephen Curry deserves every chance to compete for another championship. And when the opportunity to acquire Alperen Sengun presented itself, when Rafael Stone in Houston picked up the phone and we started having serious conversations, I made the decision that this was the moment to push our chips to the middle of the table. We are not waiting around for the next All-Star to become available. We are not playing it safe. We are going for it. This is Stephen Curry's franchise, and we are going to give him every single resource we have to chase a 5th championship. I had to pause the TV. Because what Mike Dunleavy just said is exactly what Warriors fans have been demanding for the last 3 years. Be aggressive, take the shot. Stephen Curry is one of the greatest players in NBA history, and you cannot waste his final years sitting on assets, hoping the perfect deal materializes. Dunleavy understood the assignment. He looked at Curry's window, he looked at Jimmy Butler's ACL situation, he looked at Steve Kerr's 2-year extension, and he made the move that this franchise had to make. They went to commercial break. I'm freaking out on my couch. I'm sending screenshots to every Warriors fan I know. The basketball Twitter timeline is absolutely burning. And when First Take came back from the break, the energy on the set was even crazier. Brian Windhorst took over the analysis. He said, let me put this trade in perfect context for everybody watching. Alperen Sengun this past season averaged 20.4 points, 8.9 rebounds, and 6.2 assists per game. He is one of 3 players in the entire NBA who hit those marks. The other 2 were Nikola Jokic, the 3-time MVP, and Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. Sengun is 23 years old. He has just earned his 2nd consecutive All-Star selection, and the Warriors just put him in the perfect system with the perfect coach alongside the perfect guard. This is the closest the NBA has come to cloning the Denver Nuggets championship offense, and the Warriors just did it. They just cloned Jokic and Jamal Murray with Sengun and Stephen Curry. Steve Kerr's offense, with its constant motion, its constant passing, its constant cuts, Sengun is the missing piece. He's the big man that Kerr has been trying to develop ever since DeMarcus Cousins left in 2019. This is going to be the most beautiful offense in basketball next season. Or, Dub Nation, are you hearing what Brian Windhorst just said? The most beautiful offense in basketball. Stephen Curry running off pin-down screens while Alperen Sengun operates from the elbow as a passing hub. That's game over for every defensive scheme in the NBA. How are you going to guard that? You can't trap Curry because Sengun will pick you apart with his passing. You can't sag off Curry because he'll shoot a 35-foot three in your face. You can't double Sengun because Curry will rain hellfire from beyond the arc. You can't single cover Sengun because he's a 20-point, 9-rebound, 6-assist machine. This action is indefensible in the modern NBA. Molly Karam asked the question that I think every basketball fan was thinking. She said, "Mike, the Houston Rockets just eliminated the Warriors from the playoffs in 2025. They've been your direct competitor in the Western Conference. Why would Raphael Stone agree to send you this player?" And Mike Dunlevy Jr., on with that quiet confidence, said, "Molly, I'm not going to speak to what's happening inside the Rockets organization. What I can tell you is that Houston has a different timeline than we do. They have Kevin Durant, who turns 38 in September. They have an aging core. They need to maximize the next 2 seasons. The package we put together, Brandon Podziemski, Moses Moody, Buddy Hield, 3 first-round picks, that gives them the win-now veterans and the future draft capital they need to stay competitive. It's a fair deal for both sides. Raphael is a tremendous executive. He saw the same logic that we saw, and the deal got done." Stephen A. Smith jumped back in. He had been quiet for a while, just processing, and now he was ready to fire. He said, "Mike, I have to ask you the question that every basketball fan is wondering. How does this work with Draymond Green? Draymond has been your starting center, your defensive anchor, your emotional leader for over a decade. Sengun plays the same position. Is Draymond moving to the 4? Is Draymond moving to the bench? Because there is no way Draymond Green sits behind a 23-year-old kid. That's a clash of egos that could destroy this entire trade." Mike Dunleavy Jr. didn't even flinch. He said, "Stephen A., Draymond was the second person I called when this trade got close. Not the second, he was the first. Before I even told Curry, because Draymond is the heartbeat of this franchise. And you know what Draymond said to me? He said, 'Mike, get this done. Whatever you have to do, get it done.' Because Draymond Green understands what every Warriors fan understands. Adding Alperen Sengun is going to make everybody on this roster better. Draymond is going to play the 4. He's going to be the secondary playmaker. He's going to focus on defense, on rebounds, on energy. He'll get fewer minutes overall, but the minutes he plays are going to be peak Draymond. The chemistry is going to be there. Draymond and Sengun have already exchanged phone numbers. They're going to work out together this summer." The studio erupted. Draymond Green himself coming out to publicly bless this trade is the signal that this is going to work. Draymond doesn't bless moves that don't fit. Draymond doesn't co-sign acquisitions that step on his toes. And the fact that Mike Dunleavy Jr. called Draymond before he even called Stephen Curry tells you everything about how this organization values its veterans. This is championship infrastructure right here. Then Brian Windhorst dropped a stat that absolutely blew my mind. He said, "Let me tell you something else that's wild about this trade. Alperen Sengun shot 53% from the field last year. He's a career 60+% free throw shooter. He's not just a great offensive player, he's an efficient offensive player. And when you pair him with Stephen Curry, who is the greatest shooter the game has ever seen, and Jimmy Butler, who is one of the most clutch finishers in NBA history, you have a big 3 that defenses are gonna lose sleep over. The 2026-27 Warriors are gonna score 125 points per game. Easy. I'm not even exaggerating. This offense is gonna be a cheat code. 125 points per game. Dub Nation, do you understand what this means? The Warriors haven't been able to score consistently for 2 years because the offense has been too Curry dependent. Now they have a second elite playmaker in the front court who can run the offense from the high post, set up plays, hit cutters, deliver dimes. Steph can finally move without the ball every possession. Curry running through screens, catching passes from Sengun at the elbow, rising up for jumpers, splashing. Threes from the parking lot. That's the formula. That's the future. Mike Dunlevy Jr. then dropped his final bomb of the morning. As the segment was wrapping up, Stephen A. asked, "Mike, what does this mean for Jimmy Butler's role when he comes back from the ACL?" And Dunlevy, with absolute clarity, said, "Stephen A., Jimmy Butler is going to come back next season as the fourth option on a championship contender. Stephen Curry is our floor general. Alperen Sengun is our offensive hub. Draymond Green is our defensive anchor, and Jimmy Butler is going to do what Jimmy Butler does best, play postseason basketball at the highest level. We are not asking Jimmy to carry games during the regular season as he recovers. We're asking him to be ready for April, May, and June. With Sengun handling the offensive load with Curry, Jimmy's load is going to be lighter than it's been in years. He's going to be fresher in the playoffs than he's been at any point of his career. This entire team is going to be peaking when it matters most." That was the a drop. That was the championship level vision that every Warriors fan has been begging to hear. Molly Karam, smiling from ear to ear, asked one final question. She said, "Mike, what's your message to Dub Nation today?" And Mike Dunleavy Jr., with that quiet but fiery confidence, said, "Dub Nation, I know there have been a lot of questions. I know there has been a lot of doubt. But today, with this trade, we just announced to the entire National Basketball Association that we are not done. Stephen Curry's window is open. The dynasty is not over. We are coming for everybody. The Thunder, the Spurs, the Lakers, the Nuggets, none of them are ready for what we're about to put on the floor. Banner number 5 of the Curry era is coming to the Bay Area. Trust the process. Strength in numbers."